Hi everybody, I hope this video finds you well. I'm going to share something with you today which is about why we needn't worry about the future. Now that might sound a little bit strange because as I'm recording this today, we are in early 2021. We're still very much in the grip of the pandemic and there will be a lot of people worrying about the future. But I want to share some reasons why. One, why we do worry about the future, and two, why actually there is no need to. And the first thing that I want to share is that the primary objective of the brain is to predict and protect. So therefore, our brain is frantically trying to predict what's going to happen in order to protect us. But the thing about the future is that it is unknown. We didn't know 14 months ago that we were going to be in the pandemic, and certainly we didn't know that when it did hit, that it was going to last for as long as it seems to be. And so therefore, by worrying about the future by virtue of the fact that it's unknown, you're worrying about something that you literally have no control over. What usually happens is people create something in their mind in their future, so they make something up that they don't want to happen. That is actually what they worry about, because if they were genuinely worrying about the future is unknown and you can't worry about what you don't know. So I hope that makes sense. Now, the automatic process of the brain of predicting and protecting will happen unless we do something conscious to interrupt that pattern. And that is around using our conscious minds to be able to say, the future is unknown, I don't know what's going to happen, and to be okay with that. Now, I appreciate for a lot of people, that's quite a big stretch in general, but particularly with what's going on in the world. But what I'm going to share is some experiences that I've had that's meant I used to be the world's biggest worrier about everything, particularly about the future, and now I just don't. And I want to share some things that have happened that kind of underline why, when I was worrying about things, how they ultimately turned out, I didn't need to worry. So I appreciate this is a stretch for some people, but there absolutely is a chance to reduce the anxiety and to feel better about what the future may hold, and hopefully the things that I'm going to share with you are going to help you understand. So the first example that I have is to do with a relationship that I had must be nearly 20 years ago now. I was in a relationship with a colleague who I had been good friends with before we started the relationship, and we were together for a couple of years, maybe 2.5 in total. The first year of our relationship was fantastic. The second year and a half was the polar opposite of fantastic. And the short version of the long story is that eventually I took the decision that I had no choice but to walk away from the relationship because it wasn't ultimately in my best interests. Now, that was probably the hardest decision if not the hardest, that I've ever had to make. I believed with every core of my being that this person was the person that I was meant to be with. And I was going against everything that I believed to be true, but something within me said, you know, you've tried everything, you have to walk away. I remember saying to my oldest friend at the time, I just have to trust that there's a reason, that there's something else, you know, I will meet somebody ultimately and they will be far better for me. I can't see how that's the case because I believe this person was the one, but I just trust that will happen. Now, it was a number of years before I did meet said person. And like I say, I would have done anything to make this relationship work. It was all of my identity was caught up with the way that things had been when we got together and how good it had been in the first year, and I wasn't listening to the alarm bells of how things were in the second 18 months. I went through a period where I was really anti-relationships. I kind of dated a couple of people, but I was certainly not looking for anything serious, and I just kind of focused on me. I was busy with my career. It was when I first actually got back into horses, which was just an amazing thing that happened in my life. And then after a while, time was between the breakup and me me and I'd started to mellow, and I realised that I kind of was maybe open to meeting somebody, and I vocalised that thought to said oldest friend that I mentioned earlier, and within 3 months I met the person who is now my husband. He is the polar opposite to the person I was dating before, pretty much, and he's the most perfect person for me. And it was one of those things that very quickly, when we got together, I just knew, I just felt it. Everything within my being was like, yeah, absolutely. And we have been together for 15 years this year, maybe 14, I can't remember, a long time, and we've been married for 11 years, and it worked out perfectly. The things that I'm doing in my life now, my coaching business, all the things that I'm doing with the horses, I wouldn't be doing them if I'd been with the other person. There's no way he would have given me the support that my husband gives me. I know if I'd got my way, honestly, I would be miserable. So I am so pleased that life, if you like, the universe, whatever it is that you want to believe in, whatever feels good for you there, that it looked out for me, and I didn't get what I believed with every core of my being at that time, every fibre of my being, that I wanted. You might have seen on Instagram people share things like, sometimes you don't get what you want because you deserve better, or sometimes you get even better than you thought, and for sure that was the case there. So that shows me that what I thought I wanted in the moment, with all the emotion and not being able to see the bigger picture, just wouldn't have been right for me. I have another example as well. Back in 2013, I bought a new horse. I'd had a couple of tricky horses prior, and I still had them. And this horse I bought, I just wanted to kind of be my horse of a lifetime, a take anywhere horse, do anything. And when I bought her, it started off really well. Very quickly it went downhill. And essentially what I can see now with the benefit of hindsight, we weren't a right match for each other, and I didn't have enough support around me to buy a horse of that. She was 6, but she was very inexperienced 6, and I learnt that lesson the hard way. It was heartbreaking, honestly. Ultimately I ended up selling her. I've never sold a horse before, and I'd never intend to either, and I certainly didn't intend to sell her. But what I learned on the back of it, and what actually happened in terms of the route that my life took as a result, couldn't have happened any other way. Where it's led me to now are just places I couldn't have dreamt of. I'll tell you about the specifics. I eventually decided to sell her. Again, a bit like the relationship, I held on too long. There's a theme. I'm learning that actually I need to kind of learn to let go without dragging myself through the emotional mire. But it's hard when you're in it, as I'm sure you will know. So I had sent her to somebody to have some schooling. I wanted to show jump at the time, and it just wasn't happening. The person I sent her to school with also found issues with schooling. Jumping, but I did decide that I was going to keep her for dressage. I wasn't an experienced enough dressage rider at the time, and I think the relationship had broken down, and it just became untenable. So I ultimately found her a nice home. There was a lot of stress in the meantime, but that was the end result. When I was really struggling with her, I reached out to a coach who I hadn't worked with before for help, and she helped me through that process. She wasn't the person that schooled her, that was somebody else. That person then gave me a horse on loan, Donkey, who is now here retired with me. And he was the best thing that had ever happened to me from a horsey point of view. He was, I think, 19 when he came to me. Been there, seen it, done it. The most laid-back horse, could be forgiving of all of my challenges as a rider, and just gave me the joy back of riding again. The other thing as well, he gave me the confidence to go out there and do different things that I wouldn't have done. He also helped me to level up my riding, and those of you that follow me on Instagram will know that I have my amazing sports horse Kiki. I would not have been good enough to ride her, and I certainly wouldn't have gone and tried a horse like her beforehand. Had I not had the difficulty with the mare that I thought was going to be my horse of a lifetime, I wouldn't have met the coach. I wouldn't have leveled up. I've done things in the previous 3 years, I've started eventing, which is something that I'd always wanted to do, but deep in myself I believed that I couldn't. This has all been part of my mindset journey. So I didn't want that situation that was, there were tears. It was really, really difficult at the time. However, what I can see with the benefit of hindsight, I learned so much from it. And what I have on the at the end of it, if you like, or on the journey, on the back of it, is I've had the opportunity to ride 2 incredible horses and develop myself as a result. So I don't know whether you can look back on your own past at situations where when you were in the middle of something it seemed like the end of the world, but actually when you look back you can kind of go, oh, well, if that didn't happen then I wouldn't be here. Somebody that I follow online talks about diamonds become to be the way that they are as a result of being under pressure, and therefore that is the same as humans. When things are difficult and when they feel like we're being squeezed from every angle, we're actually being asked to step up, to find out who we are and develop to the next level. I love that analogy, and like I said, I know for sure it doesn't feel like that when you're in the middle of it. But for me, that gives me real comfort that I can trust that life has my back, even when it doesn't seem like I want what's happening in that moment in time. I believe there's a bigger picture, and you know what, even if there's not, the fact that I believe there's a bigger picture makes me feel better in the moment, which is absolutely what I need. So I wanted to share that with you. It does take some effort to get to this stage of being able to manage your mindset, because our mind is in the automatic predict and protect, and one of the things that I help clients with is actually interrupting that pattern to be able to stop it kind of running the show, and then it becomes possible to actually program our mind to something that is more helpful and makes us feel better. If that's something that you're interested in, then get in touch and we can have a chat about how I might be able to help you. Take care, everybody.